solving inequalities by adding or subtracting. So we're going to use the one-step process that we did for equations, but with inequalities, using subtraction, and then one-step addition for inequalities. So let's, for instance, take this inequality. -1 is less than 2. That's a true inequality. What happens if we subtract 2 from each side of this inequality? Well, 2 take away 2 is 0, and -1 take away 2 is -3. The resulting inequality is also true. It's true that -3 is less than 0. That's the subtraction property of inequality. Just like we had subtraction property of equality that says when you subtract on both sides of the equal sign, it still stays equal. Well, if we subtract on both sides of the inequality, it still stays equal. What if I had 7 is greater than 3? That's a true inequality. Let's see what happens if I add 4 to both sides. When I add 4 to 7, I get 11. When I add 4 to 3, I get 7. That's also true. 11 is greater than 7. So the addition property works for inequalities also. Let's use these properties to solve the inequality and then graph their solutions. So you can think of this as an equal sign, although it's not. It's different in many different ways. But we need to get n by itself. Our goal is to get the variable by itself. And right now, 8 is added to n. So the inverse of addition would be to subtract 8 on both sides. These would zero out, and I'm left with n. I'm going to drop down my inequality symbol and make sure I have the or equal to with it. And 19 take away 8 is 11. Now we were working on graphing these in the last section. So I'm just going to plot 0 and I'm going to plot 11. And I want a closed circle because it's an or equal to. And then I want numbers greater than or equal to 11. The numbers greater than 11 are over here, numbers like 12. Let's look at this problem. Now, I'm not wanting to add 26 to both sides. That's not going to help me achieve my goal of getting y by itself. 26 is already away from y. He's across the line here. But 14 needs to leave. So it's a positive 14. I'm going to subtract 14. That way these would zero out. I'm left with y. I'm going to drop down my inequality symbol. And -26 minus 14 would be 40, or -40. Okay, so same signs, you add, and then keep the sign of their number. So remember, it's a little bit difficult when the variable comes last. So I'm going to plot 0 and -40, but we can always rewrite this with the y first and the -40 second. We just need to make sure that this opening has 2 dots towards -40. Okay, so we want y's that are less than -40. Those y's that are less than -40 are down here, such as -50. And if I want the less than symbol, I need an open circle, not a closed circle. Okay, so this graph represents this inequality. I want you to go ahead, I'm going to pause the video, and I need you to solve A for me here. Solve A and graph it. Okay, hopefully you saw that -15 was bothering n. So to undo the -15, you needed to add on both sides. Those would cancel out the 15s, and you're left with n is less than or equal to 18. So now we need to graph this. Less than or equal to means 18 could be a solution. And what numbers could we plug in for n and that this is a true equality? Well, I could plug in any numbers that are less than, such as 0. So I want to include 0 in my shading. Let's look at the last one. If you're feeling like you think you got it, go ahead, pause the video, and work on part B. All right. The -14 is bothering y, so we're going to add 14 in order to zero those out. Drop down the y, drop down my inequality symbol, make sure it's facing the correct direction. Different signs, I'm going to subtract the numbers and keep the sign of the higher number, which is on the negative on the 16. So y is less than or equal to -2. Okay, in other words, negative 2's got to be bigger than all of these other numbers. If you can't see that, go ahead and flip it so the y is first and negative 2 is second. And make sure this is opening towards the negative 2 here since it was opening towards the negative 2 here. That way when you graph it, you can see that you want numbers that are going to be less than negative 2 or equal to negative 2. So again, we have a closed circle, arrow pointing to the left. All right, good luck on your scavenger hunt. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask the adults in charge.